everyone, welcome to my channel Tech Savvy. Today we are going to learn about Git, that is version control system, or we can call it as a distributed version control system. So here is the agenda for this video. So to start with, we will cover some small brief description about source code management. Then we'll move what is Git, components of Git, advantages of Git, and then Git configuration, and then we'll see the demo of Git commands. So first let's just understand the concept of source code management. So as mentioned in the slide, source code management are of two types. It's been done in two forms, that is centralized version control system or distributed version control system. So this is also called as software configuration management, right? So what exactly the meaning of source code management, how it has been done, what people are following. So let's move to the paint. Okay, so here let me explain you what happened earlier. Before, when we were not having any source code management tool, people are also managing the source code. This is the term which is very oftenly used in IT industries. So what is software configuration management or source code management tool, or we can call it as a SCM. Under SCM, what happened is, there is earlier, before distributed version control system or centralized version control system, there was the manager present in any company, right? And there are some developers who develop the code like that. So how code is being developed in earlier days, the developer develops the code and send it to the manager like that. So what manager will do, manager take all the codes from the developers, and the job of manager will be reviewing the code which is being sent by developer, then merging that code into the single form and the single file, and he also has to check the code quality, whether his code is supported with other developers code or not, whether they are following the flow, the functionality is same, whether while merging both the code, if anything goes wrong, or all the functionality which has been written by both the developer or all 5 developers are working fine or not. So this is like day one job, right? But on other day, at day 2, again the same work developers are doing. They again written some piece of code, and again they are sending to the manager for code review and code merging. So again the same job manager has to do. Manager first need to review the code which has been written in day 2, then he has to again merge those code, and again he has to test the functionality with the day 1 code also, and then he has to merge both the day's code also. So it was very difficult for the manager to manage such type of codes, right? Because, and again day 3, day 4, day 5, every day the developers are sending the code to him. So it's very difficult to identify manager that which developer has written which code on day 3 or day 4, which code is creating the problem, because initially there will be less number of line present in the main code file, but there might be chances on day 5 any developer has done some bug, some error in his code, and he has sent to the manager, and manager has also missed out to check that code, that error which has been done by the developer 3. So what happened is, he has merged the complete code on day 5, and at day 6 he come to know that the functionality is not working. So now it's the complete manager's responsibility to identify where and which line of code has done some problem. So it will be very difficult for him to read all the code line by line, right? Because there was no automation, everything was manual. But after, when these two things, centralized version control and distributed version control system, came into the market, everything what manager was doing manually is now being automated with the help of centralized version control tool and distributed version control tool, right? Because in previous time or previous generation, manager was doing lot of manual work, and he was always overburdened with his work, right? He has to manage team also, he has to manage project also, and he has to manage code also. So there was the 110% chances of the mistakes, So with the help of source code management tools, that is SCM tools, are one is CVCS, that is centralized version control, other one is DVCS. So we will see these two one by one. Now let me first start with centralized version control system. So what happened in centralized version control system? There is one repository and there are the developer. So suppose this repository is like the manager who was doing manual work here. So this is the repository, or I can call it as a central repo or repository. Okay. Still there are the PC or there are the developer who is developing the code in their machine. So this is PC1, PC2 and PC3. So what they are doing at day 1, right? Day 1, what developer 1 did, he has again written some piece of code here and he sent into the central repository, just like he was sending to the manager. So what will be done in the central repository? Central repository is nothing but the folder which is created remotely somewhere in the cloud or some different location. It could be on premises also, but that is not directly like physically present in, just like the manager. It is like we are accessing with the help of internet. So the developer 1 did some code, written some code and he has sent to the central repository, right? Next, what he did, he committed the code, right? Commit. Then again the second developer, he has written some code and he has sent to central repository. So again the code which is being created by the second developer is being added here, right, with some ID. That ID is commit ID or the version ID. Okay. Again the third developer did the same job. So automatically what happened at this location, the code merging will be done and we will receive the complete file, right, without conflict. If any conflict will come, automatically this repository will revert back to this developer that your code is creating some conflict, you have done something wrong. So the person who has written this code, that is his responsibility to resolve the conflict. Here the problem is everything has to resolve by manager only. So this is one part. Now on the next day, on second day, what happened? He has done some changes, he has done some changes, he has done some changes. So here 3 code changes are present. So next day, obviously to avoid the rework, because what work he has done, what work he has done, he has to know. Otherwise the problem will be, there might be chances that both the developer are working on the same code, right? So with the help of centralized version control, we are having the facility to pull the code from central repository to local machine. So next day, on day 2, the developers will do, they will update their machine with updated code. So now he will have all the 3 changes here. Same way here, because he will also update like that. So again he will write some code on next day like this, here and here, and again at the day end they will push that code into the central repository like this. So all the 3 code is been added here. So now everything is been automated. So earlier what happened is, the job which is being done by manually by the manager is now automated with the help of CVCS. But obviously if anything come with the advantage, there are disadvantages also, or I would say the drawbacks. So there are some drawbacks which is present in centralized version control. So what all are their drawbacks are? So drawback is, as this central repository is present somewhere, not locally, but somewhere in the air or some physical location or some cloud, some storage, right, remote location. So people who are sitting in the office, if they wanted to access the central repository, they need one mandatory thing, that is internet. Without internet, the access to the central repository is not possible. So the developer are dependent on internet, right, one thing. And the second point is, as the central repository is present on internet, so the problem is it will be slow also. right? Because of network traffic, it is not always depends on like the speed. It sometimes depends on the internet provider vendor also. The area on which my company is might be the internet is working very slow, so they will face some challenges to download or to push the changes into the central repository. And every time the developer needs to connect with the central repository, and the work will be little slow. And the second point is, which is very important, what if due to some error or some earthquake or some disaster happened and the central repository stopped working, right? So the people who is connected with the central repository are not able to work because they need the code. They don't have any code available in the local machine. They need central repository. So the work will stop. The employees will not be able to work. One point. And what if due to some problem we are not able to recover this central repository also? In that case, complete code file which is present here is now lost. So we need to again start working on the project because we have not taken any backup or anything. We don't have anything because everything we are completely dependent on the central repository. So these are some of the drawbacks which is present in the centralized version control. That's why distributed version control system came into the picture. So what happened with the help of distributed version control system or DVCS is, here also we have one repository. Here also we have developers with their workstation. Nothing changed. Both the things are common. Here only one thing is extra is been added, that is known as local repository. So this one, these three and these three is, this is local repository and this is workstation or working space, right? Or my PCs, developers machines, kind of. I can type dev machines here, right? Okay, great. And this is my central repository. Okay, so what happened is, first of all, let me tell you one thing. What is distributed version control? So distributed version controls is our Git, the Git which we are going to learn. So if someone will ask what is Git, what type of version control system Git provide is, so Git provide distributed version control system. So if someone asks you what is Git and what kind of version control system Git provides, so Git provide distributed version control, right? So what is the meaning of distributed here? Your work is distributed. How it is distributed, I will tell you in within 5 minutes. So first of all, the question came in mind, who has created Git and what is Git? So let me clear you. Git is a software. Okay, don't compare this Git with GitHub or GitLab. Okay, GitHub and GitLab are the services. They work at this level. They provide space for central repository, and Git work at this level. As this is the software and this is the local repository, we need to install it. So Git work at local repository level. Okay, and this is a service, so this work at central repository level. One thing. So the question is, who has created Git? So Git has been created by the famous person we all know, who has developed the Linux operating system. He has created Linux as an open source. Obviously, whatever he create is the open source. So I would say Git is also an open source. It's completely free in 2005, right? So what he did is, before Git also people are using some version control system, that is Bitkeeper, right? And even Linux system is also using Bitkeeper, but due to some conflict they stopped the contract and they are not working together. So what Linux Torvald thought, he thought, let's create our own version control system and make it open source. So as this is open source and free, so people are more attracted towards the Git now. Okay, we also have another version control system, that is Mercurial. that is also not in so much use because they are kind of enterprise thing. They are chargeable, right? Okay, so now as I said, Git is the software so which has been used to create a local repository, or as it has been created by Linux store world, so Git is very compatible with the Linux. Okay, so it also work on Windows and Mac operating system also, but it worked well with the Linux because the compatibility with the Linux is very good. So we have this workstation, right? The person is developing the code in their local workstation, and what they did, instead of that directly pushing the code into the central repository, what they did, first they will commit the changes into the local repository, right? So what they will do, they will work on local repo. Okay, so they push the code into the local repo, or I will say they commit the code, right? So in the daytime they are committing the code in the local repo, and at the day end before leaving to the office, what they will do, they will push the code into the central repository, right? One point. Now suppose this person is working in the India shift and the other developer is working in the US shift. So next day he came, and in the next shift he came, and what he will do, he want to see the what work is been done by India person. So what he will do, first he will take the pull from here. What he will do, he will take the pull and he will update his working directory also here like that. Okay, he will update it and he will again write some code. Once he will done, he will again commit the code, right, and then push the code here. Same way he will do, pull the code, update, commit and push. So next day in the Indian shift, again the person came, and as he is before working in India shift, they too have done some changes into the code. So he need to take the updated file. So what he will do, he will again pull the code from the central repository to local repository, and then again in his working directory, and he will start working here. So now what is the benefit distributed system is resolving? Okay, so with the help of distributed version control system, or with the help of Git, the connection which we are facing with the here is, that is internet. So it is not required always to get connected with the internet. Only when you are performing the task which has been related with central repository, at that time only you need internet. So you can do in the morning, you can update your repository in the local repo and you are having all the code. So in the daytime, anytime you developer can start working without internet, and day end before moving or before closing his shift, he can push the code into the central repository. Here all the time they have to be connected with the central repository. Here that has been resolved. Okay, and if this repository is stop working, or we have lost this repository, so we have the copy of the code available in every local system. So you can see the code is distributed. We have multiple copies of our code. That's why it is called as distributed version control system. So let me read some small definition for you. The distributed version control system, every contributor has a local copy here, okay, or clone of main repository. That is, everyone maintain a local repository of their own which contain all the file and metadata present in main repository. Okay, so this is about the distributed version control system and centralized version control system. Now let's move towards the workflow of the Git. Okay, now what we are going to see is workflow of the Git, right? So we have one developer in India, other developer in US, for example, and they both are working in our common project, right? And we have created one common repository here in GitHub, central repo for our project, where both the developers, one who is sitting in India and the other one who is sitting in US, has to update the code so that the manager can review anytime. right? Manager of the company can review the code anytime. Okay, now, so how this work, how they can create a local repo in their machine, how they can push the code, how the push pull will work, how the snapshot will be created. So it's very easy. What happened is, what we will do, the person who is sitting in India will create one directory here, name for example India repo, okay, and the person who is sitting in US will also create one directory that is called as US repo, okay, and they will go inside this repository and they will run one command, that is git init, to initialize this directory. Once they will initialize this directory to work it as a local repository, right? Once they will run this command, this directory will convert into 3 part or 3 stage, like that, okay. Same command they will run here, he will run here also. So this area is known as, or the 3 stages of this is, one is working directory, other one is staging area, second one is local repo, okay. So this is working directory where developer will develop the code, this is stage area, and this is local repo where all the code is present, okay. Repo, again same like this, working directory, stage area, and this one is local repo, okay, great. Now what happened is, the person who is sitting in India has written one piece of code like this, he has written some code, right? And what he did, he added that code. Once he will complete writing the code, he will add that code into the stage area. Now what is the stage area? Stage area is the temporary location where developer will keep his changes, right? Keep all the files. Suppose for example he has created 4 files, file 1, file 2, file 3, right? So what he will do, he will start dumping all the file in the stage area. He don't want to commit. What he will do, first he will write all the files, and then he will think, okay, I have created good file or good content in file 1 and file 2, so he will only commit those files into the local repo and he will discard file 3 here. So this is kind of a temporary location, okay. Now he has moved the code into stage area by running the command, that is git add. Git add is the command. With the help of, we can add our code into stage area. So like this, the code will move here, okay. So we have this code here like this, and with the help of commit command, git commit command, we will add the code here also. So what command we have run? We have run commit command, git commit command, okay. So we have added the code here. Once the working hours is over for India developer, he will do what he will do. Whatever we have done till now is done in the local machine of the developer who is present in India. There is still now no internet is required. Now he wants to push that code into the central repository so that the person who will join in the US shift can pull the changes. So now this time he need the internet, okay. So what he will do, he will run one command from here to push the code. So what command he will run? He will just simply type git push, okay. So with the help of git push, whatever changes is been present in the local repository will move here like this. So what changes it is having? It is having one red line of code here. So it will move here and it will generate the commit ID, and the commit ID is R of 40 character alphanumeric number, okay. This is the commit ID. I will show you in the lab when we will do the lab also, and it will create a snapshot like whatever we pushed here, like git store the data based on commit ID and in the form of snapshots. So let me write it here for you. Git is storing data based on commit ID or commit ID and snapshots. It keep data in the form of snapshots, okay, like in incremental way, incremental snap. Okay, great. Now he has closed for the day and US person came for the shift. Now he again wants to work on the same project, but he also wants to see what work is being done by the India's developer. So what he will do, he will again pull the code before starting directly working on the directory. What he will do, he will pull the code into the local repo, right? So he will pull the code like that. So whatever data actually he will pull, and that data will come into the local repository first. So the data is now present in the local repository like this. Now he started his day and this data is present in local repo. So he moved into the work directory and then he started writing the code. So what he will done, he write it down the some green line of code, and at the day end again he did the same job what has been done by the India person. He added the code like that, red line of code here and then green line of code here. He added and then he committed the code inside this, and before day end he pushed the code, into the repository. Again in the next shift he pulled the code into local repository, pull the code. So what happened, once he will pull, so green line of code is again present here like that. So again he will do blue line of code change here, so he will get blue here also once he will add, and green here also, and then blue line of code here. At the day end he will push there will be green line of code also once he will push, and once he will push the blue line of code is there again. Once the US person will pull the code, so the blue line code will here. So this is kind of the cycle, continuous cycle, and which will help manager to keep the transparency of the code. Both the developer will work on the unique task, there will not be repetition. The work will done also if the central repository is not working. If we have lost the central repository, we have all the local copy available with all the developer, we can create new repository also. So we have distributed or the backup of the code also, okay, and the transparency is there with the help of commit ID also. If something wrong happened, if some wrong code is being committed, it will also have the transparency to the manager and to the developer that who has done wrong commit. Also, if you will done a dot change also in your code, it will be visible here. It is not like that you can make fool to anyone that this dot is not done by you or space is not done by you, because it will have the commit ID and the username configured, all the detail here, all the metadata related to your commits and everything will be present here. So it will be very transparent to the manager and everything is automated. So this is about the stages of the Git or the workflow of the Git. So let's quickly have some understanding about the Git definition or some theory part before moving to the lab. So Git is free and open source distributed version control system designed to handle everything from small to very large project with speed and efficiency. So Git is used to track changes in the source code. As I have told you, to track that even dot changes is being done by you, you can track it, right? The distributed version control tool is used for SCM, source code management. It allows multiple developers to work together, right? It supports non-linear development through its thousands of the parallel branches. The branches concept we will see when we will see the demo. Now next is components of Git. There are lots of components in the Git is like repository, server, working directory, commit ID, tags, snapshot, push, pull, branch, many things. So like repository is kind of a place where you have all your code or all kind of folder available on the server. Okay, now what is server? Server is nothing but it's a place where you store all the repository. It contains all the metadata also, right? Working directory is the place where you see all your physical files and where you do modification in your files. Okay, commit id is nothing but the reference id for each commit or each changes. Tag is assigned a meaningful name to separate your versions or to track some important versions. Instead of commit id or commit message, if you wanted to track some important commit, so you can apply tag there. Snapshot is nothing but the representing of some data in the particular time, like representation of some data of particular time. Okay, it is always incremental. Push is nothing but the pushing is nothing but the push operation which help us to copy the data which is present in the local repository to the remote repository. And the pull is nothing but it is again the operation which help us to copy the content which is being present in the remote repository to local machine. Okay, so branch, as I told you, we will see in the upcoming section. So we have some of the advantages, that is Git is free of cost, open source, fast and small. Fast and small means as most of the operation are performed locally, therefore it is very fast. Okay, and the software or the binary is also very lightweight. It doesn't occupy much space in your system. Security is like Git uses a common cryptographic hash function called as hash function, like that is SHA1, to name and identify object within its database. No need of powerful hardware. It is not required any high configuration system. Normal configuration system also it will work. Okay, so let's move to the Git configuration and Git command in the next video. So you will find that next video in my playlist only. That's it about this lecture. Thanks for watching. Please subscribe my channel.